Good evening and welcome to our midweek devotion for the second week of Advent. Before we get started tonight, just a quick announcement for any Shepherd of the Hills congregation members that are watching. The council met last night, and after a lot of deliberation, we have decided to continue with virtual-only worship services until the end of 2020. With numbers and things the way they are, we just felt this was the safest decision. We will let you know as we talk between Christmas and New Year's what January will look like. Hopefully things will be well enough that we can be back in person. We just cannot see that far ahead in the future. But we will let you all know as soon as we make a decision. But with that, I'd like to start tonight with reading a section from Philippians chapter 4. Do not worry about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. This past Sunday, we remembered and we thought about peace for our Advent theme of the week. Now, the peace is not just like the peace that I'm sure a lot of folks might remember from earlier days when there was the hippie movement and peace and all that sort of thought that goes with that sort of peace. The peace that we're talking about, the harmony, tranquility that we're talking about, is something more than just we want peace, we want end to conflict and violence. That's part of it. But what we're talking about is something deeper. In Philippians, Paul has a beautiful statement, the peace of God which surpasses all understanding. The peace that God gives us is a peace that, to us, to humans, it doesn't make sense. The peace that God offers is not a peace that we can logically understand. I mentioned in my sermon on Sunday the Christmas truce of 1914, this peace that springs up in the middle of incredibly bloody war and has people of all nationalities together laughing and sharing presents and talking and playing soccer, and it just doesn't make any sense. In the midst of this conflict, peace has arisen. And that's the kind of peace that we remember as we move into Advent. The peace that came in the manger, in a story with lots of things that don't make sense. This peace that is beyond our understanding, that comes from God, that makes no sense, makes itself known in our world. This year has been a turbulent, rocky year for more reasons than I have time to list out here on this devotion. But as we move into this season, this time of remembering Christ's coming, preparing for Christ to come again, as we look back on this story of the young couple traveling thousands of miles to get to Bethlehem, this place where there would have been a level of unknownness, a bit of uncertainty, and a bit of this doesn't make sense. To be in this place where the greatest miracle, one of the greatest miracles, takes place, where this child, this promised child that people have been claiming will come for thousands of years, now is here. Emmanuel, God with us, is now present and with us, among us, dwelling with us in our lives. The peace that Christ brings is a peace that won't make sense. Where it comes up in our lives, sometimes it won't make sense. In this year of 2020, as we look at everything, we might look at peace and we think, well, that doesn't make sense. And yet it's in those moments where everything seems so chaotic that this peace that is beyond understanding, that only God can deliver, that's where it comes through the greatest, where it shines through the brightest, like that star over Bethlehem, in ways that we won't understand. But yet, all the same, it's there. And all the same, we get to step into that and live into that peace. And we're encouraged in Paul's letter to the Philippians that no matter what's going on, give it to God. Give whatever concerns, worries, whatever is going on, give it to God in prayer. And His peace will come in ways that we can't possibly expect or imagine. This season is about a lot of things, and it's very different because of a lot of things this year. But one thing that I know is not different, that is the same this year, last year, next year, and 10 years and more down the road. Christ still came. The baby was still born in the manger, and He still brought with Him a peace that is far beyond our understanding, because it is far better and far more amazing than anything that we as humans could conceive. So as we move through this season, as we move towards Christmas, as different as it'll be, I encourage you, watch for the peace. Watch for the times where it seems there is a calmness that doesn't necessarily make sense, because it's in those moments that we can sit in the peace that is beyond all understanding that God gifts to us. Thank you for joining me this evening, and I will see you all next week.